In the depths of a moonless night, when the very air seemed to thicken with dread, I found myself traversing the treacherous paths of Blackwood Forest. The wind whispered secrets through gnarled branches, carrying with it the faint echoes of forgotten souls. As I pressed onward, my lantern casting flickering shadows that danced like specters upon the mist-shrouded ground, I could not shake the feeling that unseen eyes watched my every move. The forest floor was a tapestry of decay, fallen leaves, and twisted roots conspiring to ensnare the unwary traveler. Each step I took seemed to awaken some slumbering malevolence, for the very earth beneath my feet shuddered with an unnatural life. It was then, in that moment of creeping unease, that I first heard the distant call, a plaintive cry that seemed to emanate from the very heart of the woods. Against my better judgment, I found myself drawn towards the source of that haunting sound. The path before me narrowed, the trees pressing ever closer, their branches reaching out like grasping fingers to pluck at my clothing. The air grew thick with the scent of rotting vegetation and something else, a cloying, sickly sweet odor that set my nerves on edge. As I pushed deeper into the forest's embrace, the cry grew louder, more insistent. It was a sound that defied description, part human, part animal, and wholly unnatural. My heart thundered in my chest, each beat a desperate plea to turn back, to flee this accursed place. But some force beyond my comprehension compelled me forward, deeper into the suffocating darkness. The trees began to thin, and I found myself on the edge of a small clearing. In the center stood a figure, hunched and misshapen, its back turned to me. The cry emanated from this wretched creature, a sound of such profound sorrow and loneliness that it threatened to shatter my very soul. With trembling hands, I raised my lantern, its feeble light barely penetrating the gloom. "Hello?" I called out, my voice a mere whisper in the oppressive silence. "Are you in need of assistance?" The figure turned, slowly, agonizingly, and I beheld a visage that shall haunt me until my dying day. Where a face should have been, there was only a writhing mass of shadows, a void that seemed to drink in the light from my lantern. 2 pinpricks of crimson flame burned where eyes should have been, fixing me with a gaze that froze the very marrow in my bones. I stumbled backward, my lantern slipping from nerveless fingers to shatter upon the forest floor. In an instant, darkness engulfed me, save for those 2 burning points of hellish light. The creature advanced, its movements jerky and unnatural, like a marionette controlled by an unseen, malevolent puppeteer. Panic seized me, and I turned to flee, heedless of the branches that tore at my flesh and the roots that sought to trip my feet. Behind me, I could hear the thing pursuing, its uneven footsteps drawing ever closer. The forest seemed to come alive around me, the very trees bending and twisting to block my path, hurting me deeper into its malevolent embrace. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs threatened to give way beneath me. Just as I felt the icy touch of despair closing around my heart, I burst from the tree line onto a dirt road. A battered pickup truck sat idling nearby, its headlights cutting through the gloom like twin beacons of salvation. Without hesitation, I flung myself into the passenger seat, gasping out a plea to the startled driver. "Drive, for the love of God, drive." The man behind the wheel, a grizzled forest ranger by the name of Hank, needed no further encouragement. He slammed the accelerator to the floor, and we tore away from that accursed place, the tires kicking up a spray of gravel and leaves. As we sped down the winding forest road, I recounted my harrowing tale to Hank, my words tumbling out in a frantic, barely coherent stream. To my surprise and growing unease, the ranger's weathered face grew pale, his knuckles whitening as he gripped the steering wheel. "You're lucky to be alive, son," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "That part of the forest has been off limits for years. There's something in there that ain't natural, something that takes folks and never gives them back." He went on to tell me of the numerous disappearances that had plagued Blackwood Forest over the years. Hikers, campers, even experienced rangers all vanishing without a trace. Search parties would venture into the woods, only to return days later, hollow-eyed and speaking of impossible things, of trees that moved of their own accord, of voices that called out with familiar voices, luring the unwary to their doom. But the worst, Hank continued, his voice dropping even lower, are the ones that come back changed. They look the same, sound the same, but there's something not right about them. Like whatever's in those woods has hollowed him out and crawled inside. A chill ran down my spine as I recalled the creature I had encountered, its featureless face, its burning eyes. Had it once been human? Was it one of those unfortunate souls who had ventured into the forest, only to return as something else entirely? As we drove on through the night, putting miles between us and that cursed place, I found myself unable to shake the feeling that our escape had been too easy, that perhaps, in some way, I had not truly left the forest behind at all. In the days that followed, I was plagued by nightmares of twisted trees and burning eyes. I would wake in a cold sweat, convinced that I could hear that haunting cry echoing through the night. But it was the waking hours that truly terrified me, for I began to notice subtle changes in the world around me. Shadows seemed to linger longer than they should, stretching and twisting in ways that defied natural law. Reflections in mirrors and windows would sometimes lag behind my movements, as if struggling to keep up with reality. And always, I felt watched, observed by unseen eyes that peered out from every dark corner and shadowed alcove. I tried to convince myself that it was merely the lingering effects of my ordeal, that time and distance would eventually erase the horrors I had witnessed. But deep down, I knew the truth. Whatever dwelled in the heart of Blackwood Forest had marked me, had touched something fundamental in my very being. As I sit here now, penning these words in the fading light of day, I cannot help but wonder if I truly escaped at all. Perhaps that thing in the forest had allowed me to leave, knowing that I would carry a piece of its darkness with me. A seed of madness planted in fertile soil, waiting to take root and bloom. For I have begun to hear the call once more, that plaintive cry echoing from the depths of my own mind. It beckons me to return, to lose myself once more in the twisted embrace of Blackwood Forest. And God help me, I fear that one day I may answer. To those who read these words, I implore you, heed my warning, stay far from the shadowed depths of Blackwood Forest. For in its heart dwells a darkness that hungers, a malevolence that seeks to corrupt and consume all who dare to trespass upon its domain. And should you find yourself lost in those accursed woods, remember this: not all who wander are truly lost, and not all who return are truly found. For in Blackwood Forest, the line between the seeker and the sought, the hunter and the hunted, blurs until it fades away, entirely leaving only the endless echoing darkness.